My mom, I'm always so mad at her because she's like the least animal loving of our family. And she's like, dachshunds and corgis, their shape grosses me out. And I'm like, well, Mom, you have no heart.
Their shape? What?
Yeah.
What the hell?
And did I ever tell you why she hates all cats?
Well, hit me.
This is real quick because then we get started.
I'll probably relate, but hit me.
I don't think you will. When she was like in her pre-teenage, she went to a friend's sleepover. The friend had a pet cat. By the time everybody was falling asleep in their sleeping bags, the cat wandered in and fell asleep on my mom's forehead. It didn't do anything past that, but she spent the whole night awake and terrified because she was convinced if she moved, the cat would attack her. It didn't. And so by the time that night over, she was like, all right, I'm convinced now. All cats are evil.
I can see that. I can honestly see that. Since we lost our previous cat, we've allowed Jonesy to sleep in a bedroom with us, and he's had a very, very nasty habit of climbing up behind our heads and just staring at us, and I fucking hate it.
You wake up and there's just a cat creepily staring at you.
I hate it so much.
He's a cute cat, though.
He's cute as shit, but it's a ruse. It's such a ruse. He is a liar and a thief, and he has kept me up so many nights.
Cats are so devious, but I do love them all the same. Because I feel like I say the same for my bird, only he's much more, he's not even sneaky about it. He'll just fly over and start biting me, going, rah, 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 rah. Sketch Watch Play. Welcome to episode 32 of Sketch Watch Play. I am John Fleury, and we are a once-a-month geek pop culture podcast talking TV, film, cartoons, and video games. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and most general podcast apps and directories. Please consider subscribing to us on your platform of choice to stay up to date, and also consider following us on social media. We're at Sketch Watch Play on Twitter, and we're also on Facebook.com/SketchWatchPlay. We encourage you to leave feedback on those, leave reviews on iTunes, or email us directly, sketchwatchplay@gmail.com, to give both feedback, about what you like, what you don't like, and even suggest possible topics for us to talk in the future. And this is a pretty big, significant episode, I feel, in several ways, both because of the magnitude of what we're going to talk, but also because of who our two guests are. It's funny how one of them is a first-time guest, but not a stranger to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, switching from co-host to first-time guest, Christopher Wade. He returns. How are you?
Hey, everyone. It's been quite a long time. I hope everyone's doing all right.
Yes. The episodes with the guests have been fun, but now this is the old school Sketch Watch Play format.
We're bringing it back. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Though I don't want to get fans mixed up. This is not a permanent return just yet. Chris is still very busy with personal projects, but when I told him our guest and our topic, I was like, I feel like this could be something he'd really want to talk about. And he was like, yeah. And our other guest, a first-time guest, but someone who I feel like you have a pretty active social media presence, Mr. Alan Denton.
Hey, how you doing? I'm on Twitter. If you're within the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter sphere, you've probably seen me.
Yes, because one of the things you've done is you are one of the head writers for a little show called Sonic Boom.
Well, I don't want to get me in trouble there. I'm not head writer. I was story editor.
Story. I'm sorry. That was my mistake. Yes, but involved on the script side.
Head writer Bill Freiberger. Very guy. I'm not taking anything away from Bill. And you're not.
No. I was me putting words in your mouth. Bill, if you listen to this, do not blame Alan for that mistake. But yeah, you have been involved in the production of the Sonic Boom TV series. And if we go back to our Sonic Cartoons episode where me and Chris reviewed every Sonic cartoon, we had a lot of good things to say about it. And you've had an active Twitter presence talking about some of the things that you guys have enjoyed putting into that show. I actually retweeted what your pin tweet is, where it's mocking the when Sonic and Vector are at the stakeout.
Oh yeah. That's like that's sort of the quintessential Sonic Boom type of humor for me. Yep. It's self-aware. The show itself being self-aware, but the characters maybe not completely being self-aware. That's the sweet spot.
It can vary by the nature of the joke. Like in my mind, Stakes is perpetually self-aware, which is maybe why she's insane.
Yeah. For people who haven't seen my Twitter, so it's a joke where Sonic and Vector are on a stakeout, and the scene starts, and Sonic says, "Well, this is so boring. You know, stakeouts are never like this on TV. There's usually just 2 lines of dialogue, and then they see their guy." And Vector says, "Yeah, well, life's not like TV." There he is.
Yes.
So it's sort of,
the scene starts, and Sonic's like, "We've been there for hours." You just skip all that, so it's like any other TV stakeout. And yeah, other jokes like, even more meta Sonic humor, like, Sonic never made the jump. What was it? The hippopotamus show, the game never made the jump to 3D. They never should change the color of his arms either.
Yeah.
And you're also currently writing for a Nick Jr. series.
Yeah.
Sunny Day. I looked it up. It looks cute.
Yeah, thanks. If you got a little sister, you should check it out. It's about a little girl working owns her own hair salon.
Ah.
And it's it's really cute show for kids. It's been kind of cool going from Sonic over to the preschool.
Yeah.
zone.
I will say right now, probably the main reason that I have you on this episode, again, shout out to Generation Animation, you had done a tweet a while ago saying you were interested in trying to get started on various podcasts, and they were the ones who reached out and did an interview with you about working on Sonic and just, writing in general. And I thought it would be worth giving it a shot too. And thank you for saying you'd be interested. And you also picked a doozy of a topic for us to talk about, but I'm very excited to.
Yeah.
That is actually, I'd say both the fact that you are a writer involved in writing and what you picked, because Chris had dropped some clips from that show in earlier episodes. That's what made me reach out to Chris and be like, "Hey, I'm not asking you to come back permanently or anything, but I feel like you would really want to be on this episode." I
really, really like talking about The Simpsons every now and then.
Nice.
I have a lot of good memories of it.
Yeah, and this has been an excuse for me to both revisit it and finally watch some classic episodes that I missed, but we'll get into that. And so just a real quick touching base. Chris, how have things been on your end with other personal projects and such? Anything you want to bring up?
Things have been crazy, unfortunately.
Crazy busy, yeah.
So, as many of you know, I work full-time, and unfortunately, with a coworker leaving, that means I have to fill in for his position. So he worked in print, I worked in graphics and video, and now I'm essentially filling in for a third role. So that's been a little hard trying to juggle with obviously the podcast and a couple of my other personal projects. It's been a lot of late nights. So
because you're still doing plans and plugging away on Will of Monsters.
I am. I got 4 hours of sleep last night, so
my word.
So that was fun, but it's all good.
Yep. I recommend people go back to our personal project episode to hear us talk about that. And I'm guessing the animatic is still on Vimeo.
The animatic is still on video, and
worth a watch.
And I actually, sorry, I got the cat just jumped up in my lap. Hi, Jonesy. How you doing?
Jonesy.
I've actually worked on a teaser for the film itself, and I've gotten an animatic for it set up on Vimeo. I could send it your way, John, or even Alan, if you guys are.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's as far as me being super busy as per the norm of my very fantastically boring life. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, I know of at least 4 hours that you could have been working that you weren't.
Yeah.
How dare you get some rest? Myself, I'll be real quick. I finally managed to land another part-time job and a good fit for one. I'm working going to be mostly weekend and seasonal rush at a GameStop in Silver Spring.
Ooh.
Yeah, had my first 2 days, and I applied to it in like June. It took a long time for it all to kind of congeal into, okay, you got it.
Stop.
But I've had my first 2 days there. They went well, and I'll probably be getting back to it within the next week or two. Up to it's a seasonal job, but hopefully if I do it good enough, they'll keep me on past that. But obviously nothing is set in stone. Still working on, I finally brought it up on the last episode, the WarioWare Gold Reanimate. Which, Chris, you've actually told me you're considering applying for.
Yeah, if I have some time next year, like I would my goal next year is to do a few more like reanimates like I did for the Kirby one.
Oh yeah. We talked about Kirby. That was so much fun.
So I would love to like jump in if there's a slot available.
I think there still will be. We have plenty more to go, and Wario's kind of a niche franchise, and I'm not giving deadlines just yet. So
that's cool.
So take your time.
Cool. All right.
Other than that, I've been applying and possibly landing some stuff on other indie projects, but I won't say anything about those until there's more solid stuff to show or confirm. Right. And lastly, I did go to another convention 2 weeks ago, finally, Anime USA, and I swear, just by fate, it ended up being the most packed with stuff related to the stuff we brought up on this show with me and Chris, one of which was I did for Chris.
Right, that was the one with
Jim Cummings.
I gotta admit, I was having a real bad day that day, so thank you for that.
Yeah, so Alan, I don't know if you saw this. When we did our Sonic cartoon episode, Saturday AM is this still your favorite Sonic cartoon, Chris? It's up there.
What? Saturday AM? Yeah, that was my favorite Sonic one.
Yeah, we both enjoyed it, and we both took a minute to just like go gaga over that Robotnik and Jim Cummings doing it. Yeah. Because we both love him, and it's also a running joke about how much Chris's wife can't stand him because she just felt overexposed to him as a kid. But that dude's a legend. He was one of the guests there, and it was the first time I was aware of him being a guest at an East Coast con. And it was one of those where if you went to his booth, you could pay for an autograph, a selfie, or a voice message. Say hello to someone as a character.
Oh, that's cool.
So I gave him the guideline about, hey, I'm John, my friend is Chris. He loves Robotnik. And he did that great, that creepy growl.
Hey, everybody out there, or in this case, Christopher. Jim Cummings here. You may not know me, but you definitely know John. And he knows Dr. Robotnik. And I have it on good authority that you're good friends with that damned hedgehog.
Dude, I didn't realize that you paid for that. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah,
but...
no, I'm not asking you to pay me back or anything.
No. I'm like, hey, thanks.
I think I told you, hey, consider it a early Christmas, late birthday present.
That's right, yeah.
And another thing, I guess we went up a little bit. You're someone who is a very supportive friend. I've talked about stuff that I struggle with sometimes, and I often confide in Chris about it, and he is the most patient, open ear guy in the world, and that was both a thank you and just a fun thing to do.
Dude, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, and the other one, I guess I brought it up. I guess a little more relevant to my stuff is I went to a couple panels, and this is my first. I talked about Kira Buckland a bit, who I had on the Wario cartoons, and she's since been doing voice work professionally, like as 2B in Nier, which I know you played, Chris. And she's coming back for Soul Calibur.
Cool.
I guess she has been to East Coast cons before, but I hadn't seen them. So this was my first. I went to two panels, which was one was a solo Q&A, and one was because she's a big Pokemon geek. She did a Pokemon Go kind of guide thing, like bring up a lot of good points and stuff to try with like gyms and raids and such. And I Twitter DM'd her before I heard that saying, because we keep in touch occasionally on Twitter, would Pokemon came up and said hi afterwards, and she was like, yeah, and just super fun casual talk. So thanks, Kira. And lastly, I went to another panel. It was another actress, Karen Strassman, who has done a lot of both voiceover and TV work. She's on Preacher now. She's done voices in Persona, Sonic. She's the voice of Rouge now, Fire Emblem. And it was about advice about making your craft out into a career and a lot of kind of eye-opening stuff. I felt it was something reassuring because there's so many. You know me, Chris. I have so many doubts and like self-criticism about my work, and I was just shocked to see someone who's been doing this for like upwards of 20 years talking about how she still experiences these things. It was a little it was interesting, but it was actually kind of comforting because I had long assumed that was not the case. So yeah, great times there. And we're kind of on a little time budget there. Alan needs to be off within 3:19 now on our side, and so we're aiming for 4:30 here to be done. I asked you guys if it's okay for me to bring up one piece of recent media before we tackle our main topic. And it's not one that either of you have tried or are planning to anytime soon, but the internet has kind of blown up about it, and the game is such a major time sink on its own. So, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Nothing means more to me than this game. I would kill for it, I would happily die for it. I wish things were different, but it weren't us who changed.
Now,
go for it.
First off, do either of you have familiarity with the first Red Dead or the Rockstar's open world games in general, like GTA and the like?
I've got some familiarity. Just a little bit. I know of it.
Okay.
I've played the GTA games. They also L.A. Noire was Rockstar, right?
Yeah, that was one that was developed externally technically, but they had a hands-on and published it. So yes.
Yeah. So that, but I haven't played Red Dead.
Okay. Yeah. Bullies, I think, is another really underrated one. Same template, but it's a boarding school and you're a teen with like a bike. I'm one of many who hope they still make a sequel to that. But yeah, Red Dead was, man, it's just so funny to remember when, on the PS2 we got 3 GTA games and now it's like one, it was like the next generation we only got 2 of them, and now this is their first, I realize this is their first original open world game since GTA 5, which was 5 years ago.
Hey, yeah, you're right.
And but considering how much more complex games get in terms of technology and budget with each passing generation, and how these guys are like cream of the crop in terms of prestige and the amount of money they can make, and them saying like, we really want to take our time with this game, and I'm sure you've heard about the crunch controversy. About like that wasn't as shocking to me as it was others. That's a well-known element of all game development. But maybe this will be one that motivates more people to try and figure something out about it. And another thing I noticed, most of their games like this, usually they have 1 or 2 of their studios working on it. This one, every studio they had worked on this game.
Oh,
just a huge collaborative effort, thousands of people nationwide.
Well, yeah, it's a AAA title, so...
I know, but they didn't even do that for GTA, and I just find that interesting. It's almost like they're experimenting with the pipeline of how they make these things. But yeah, so the first one I did play to completion. I really enjoyed it. I think the Western and time period setting brought like some unique mechanics, like, forget cars, here's horses and the unique facts they can bring, old school weaponry, that like grit and dirt of the old West, and even like both it and this sequel are kind of commentary on when the old West started to die out, and that also meant the end of those roving gangs of bandits once the civilization there got more industrialized, more figured out, and it was clear there was less of a place for them. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing is that this is actually a prequel. So do either of you know who John Marston was in the first one, the main guy?
I don't.
No.
In the first one, you played as John Marston, and basically the premise was he was someone who had been part of like a robber gang for a while, but left to raise a family and go straight. But the FBI decides to take his family hostage and be like, you got to track down and bring back your members if you want it back. So, and this is a prequel taking place, I think, like 12 years before, and you're playing. It follows that actual game when they were still together. So John Marston is a side character this time. They even brought his voice actor out of retirement. I had read he retired acting to be focus on raising the family, but the role meant a lot to him, so they got him back. And so instead, you play as Arthur Morgan, who is kind of like, I think it's cool that he's not just the same character again. He's older, more grizzled, even more than John is like a decade later in the first game. And they're both games that incorporate that kind of morality idea where they have like a meter of red and blue for like, oh, you did something evil, you get negative points and that.
So it's kind of like the Catherine thing.
Yeah, or if we're talking other open worlds like Infamous or Mass Effect and Knights of the Republic. All right. And they've really fleshed out and added more things. Like one crazy thing they've done, like I can't believe the amount of functions and additional mechanics they've done. You can hold L2, I'm playing on PS4, on any like extra, any person that you see in a town, and you can choose to greet them, antagonize them, or rob them. And same goes for your comrades at like the camp, because you can always go back to this camp where your other friends are hanging out. And so obviously you can play Arthur as a bastard who's going around being shitty like that. And people will react to him differently. Like I early on, I got into a brawl in one town in a story mission. Next time I went there, all these people were just commenting like, "Hey, you better not be causing any more trouble." Like, there's a very tangible sense of some of the stuff you do affecting the world. So,
story-wise, does it take you down a different path if you're choosing to be noble?
Yeah, well, yeah, I to some degree, I can say for sure, yes. I think they're saying like certain decisions, like early on you have a mission where, because you're on the run after a heist gone wrong and you're on another area, you're talking in this town. This one guy goes, "Wait, weren't you at Blackwater?" And which is the town that went wrong. And he runs off trying to report you. You chase him. He panics and falls off a cliff and is hanging on for dear life. And so your choice is let him fall or save him. And I chose to. I'm playing Arthur as someone who, like, there's no way he can play him as a 100% good guy, because there are points where you have to be killing people or just being a shit. And he makes it clear he's already killed people, but I'm having him like he has some good morals. So I saved him, and there's just the writing and acting. This is fantastic. He has a line where after he saves the guy, he's like, "What's your name?" "Jimmy Brooks." And I wrote this down where Arthur just decides, like, "Yeah, you did see me there. I'm not a good man. I kill people, and maybe I should have killed you. Should I have killed you?" And the guy, like, panics, like, I never saw you. Good. I'll remember that. It reminds me of No Country for Old Men, the part with Sugar. Are you going to kill me now? Are you going to kill me too? That depends. Do you see me?
Yeah. And I haven't seen No Country for Old Men in quite some time.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, man, that villain always gives me the chills.
Oh, Sugar, so good. But and other stuff. But I feel like I'm already seeing this be a very divisive game among audiences. They've changed and added a lot of stuff compared to both. It's different from both Red Dead 1 and most open world games in general. One thing they're going for more. It kind of reminds me of what they did with GTA 4, where they're trying to emphasize realism. But I'll admit I wasn't that big on GTA 4 because I felt like it was just very limited in the amount of stuff you could do, and then GTA 5 seemed to fix a lot of that. This also, thankfully, has a lot of stuff to do to go along with the realism. It's just stuff like when they do the thing of when you kill a guy or an animal and walk over to the corpse and you can do the loot. It's not an instant hold a button and it just says you got this. Arthur has to like lean over and go through their pockets and such, so it takes longer than you would expect. Or when you kill animals, either skinning them or picking up their whole carcass, stowing them on your horse and riding to a town to sell them. And there's also other stuff, like there is mostly not a form of fast travel for one. You can unlock one because you can upgrade your camp by giving them money, and one of the features you can unlock is fast travel from there to other towns, but you can't do it the other way around.
No,
they encourage you ride around, explore, enjoy things at your leisure. It helps that it's a gorgeous game. I don't know if you guys have seen any trailers, but
I have.
Incredible looking.
So when it comes to like open games like this, I tend to be a dick about them. Not in a sense where, I'm going to be the bad guy and do bad things. I kind of just avoid the story as long as possible and just get myself into trouble. This
is a great game for that.
Cool. Because all I wanted to do is just stroll right in. I mean, I know that this is far and beyond what makes a cowboy story or game. It's far and away from that as possible. Like there are many different factors involved, but me being the person that I am, I just want to stroll into a town just with the goofiest cowboy stride, like pelvis out, with my hands at my side, like I'm about to like just start gunning people down. Like I want to pull a 5-0 Goes West and just create mayhem at the last possible moment. As long as I'm able to do that, this sounds like a pretty
much can. Not even just shooting, but if you like, let's say you walk into a saloon and just like I said, you have the antagonize button, and if you keep insulting people, they'll get into like fist fights with you and the like.
This is what I want. Like,
and you can even do the same thing, like just messing with animals. I've had a bunch of times where I'm riding my horse and I just accidentally run over a rabbit.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and your horse freaks out. Like it neighs, like, oh, I tripped over something, and you have to press a button to calm it down, and you can walk over. And one thing that they do that's interesting with these animal carcasses and types is that they're rated on a 1 to 3 star scale. So when you kill them, depending on there are weapons that are best for killing them and doing a clean kill and damaging the pelt less.
Well, I don't want to do any of that. I just want to get in trouble with the law. I don't want to.
It's very easy to do that. Let me put it this way: like even in the open world, like there can be such a chain of effect because they do the thing of the first Red Dead and GTA 5 where there'll be like random instances of characters that pop up and ask for your help in a certain thing.
Yeah.
And I was on this big open desert area. A carriage drove past with 2 like cop sheriff looking guys riding it in a big cage with one criminal in the back, and he was going like, no, I didn't do nothing. I got a family, mister. You got to help me. And I went, you know what? Okay. And so I just shot the cops to death. Shot his padlock off. In that case,
my god.
In that case, What?
Go ahead.
He marked on my map a place that he thinks would be a good place to rob, and then he ran off. And I decided, you know what? It looks pretty empty. I'll just loot these cops' bodies. And while I did, some other guy riding back on horseback noticed it, and they did the thing where it pops up, "You've got a witness. They're heading off to inform the authorities." And they got a head start. I hopped on my horse and tried to catch them as best I could, because you can lasso them and then intimidate them to be like, "Hey, don't tell anybody." And I was like, that's not going to happen. So I just shot them dead. And a few seconds after that happened, 2 other people rode by, and it was like, these witnesses are driving off, and I just finally went fuck it and rode away so I wouldn't be found then. And then the idea is you can go to post offices and pay off your own bounty that happens from that.
Wow. See, that guy who saw you, it kind of reminds me of that really old Simpsons joke where Homer's like, he like sees the aliens for the first time and he's like, don't eat me, I have a wife and kids, eat them. And it kind of feels like this was that situation.
Oh, I will also say Patrick, my brother, who's been a guest on the past, he's been playing the game a lot too. He had a really crazy encounter where with a random, it was like he was in a town and some kind of prostitute looking lady was like, please come in and help me with this guy. And so he went in assuming he was going to protect her. Turns out she choked him to death and was like, hey, can you dispose of the body? So he picked it up and took it and dumped it in like a pig pen. And then the exact same thing happened. Somebody saw him. He killed the guy, dumped him in a pig pen. Somebody else saw him. It's just, some of it is up to chance. But I feel like even when that stuff doesn't go your way, it's very entertaining. And it adds to how alive this world feels.
Is there a demo for this game at all?
I don't think there is. But I would recommend looking up. I'm sure there's plenty of Let's Plays and such.
Okay, I can do that.
And I will say one other thing people are complaining about, compared to a lot of other Rockstar and open world games, the first 2 or so hours are very linear and confined. You're in this area you can't run away from. You're mainly just meant to do some introductory missions, and then it opens up when you move.
All right, that's fine.
It's not as bad as Roxas and Kingdom Hearts, but
yeah, I don't mind. I mean, Roxas and Kingdom Hearts that broke me as far as 2-hour tutorial. So
this is a more enjoyable tutorial.
All right,
less confusing too. And I'm just going to check here. I'll be moving on pretty quickly. And one other thing I'll say, this whole gang, there's tons of people in it, probably like at least a dozen, but they give you a lot of time with all of them because it's kind of your home base. You can just walk over and talk to any of them. Sometimes they'll walk up to you with specific conversations or side tasks, like, hey, you can give me this item and I'll give you a reward, or hey, I even got like side missions from them. One was like, you want to go rob a homestead, or one of them is part native, and so he's like, let's go hunt a bison, and so you do that, and he's like, all right, just kill one. We don't want to be mean about it. So I do that. Then he discovers a bunch of carcasses nearby that weren't even harvested or anything. And he gets pissed, like, who's doing this? And you just ride over until you find these 2 guys. And they even admit, like, they're just being total assholes. And they're like, we're going to tell people the engines did it. And he immediately, like, just murders one of them. And the other starts freaking out and also does, I have a family. And you can choose as Arthur to kill them or just terrorize him. So I walked up and beat the shit out of him and was like, don't do that again.
No, wow, cool.
And they even, like, the characters are distinct, and I'm pretty sure there's some you're meant to not like. Like, there's one called Micah, who from the beginning there's still some tension there. Let me put it this way. It's also a pretty diverse group. There's some Hispanic guys, black characters. I think the native I'm talking about is part black, part Hispanic. I mean, part native. And there's one character, Micah, who, when you get to this cold area and Arthur's going to, share a cabin with the leader, Micah's like, what? Arthur gets a room and I got to share a bunch of bunk beds with all the racial slurs? Yes, it's the 1800s, and that was more common, but
it's all right.
That's certainly one way to tell you, hey, this probably is not a character you should root for.
Yeah, this guy's a piece of shit. All right.
Oh, based on what happens after that, I'm pretty sure there's going to be more conflict. But just the last thing I will say, because Alan, you asked about, does the choice aspect have an impact on? Yeah, I think there will be. I remember they preview that there will be some small things. Like I saw a video where like Arthur rides into town, and some townsgirl comes up and starts screaming at him, "You killed my uncle!" And I'm guessing you can also probably get blocked off from certain missions. My biggest regret is one of the random strangers. I walked by a shore and there was this like hick guy like throwing stones in the river and crying like, "Oh, Billie Jean, why'd you take this other guy?" And so I started by doing the greet thing, and Arthur's saying like, "Oh, come on, you can try to just go talk to her." And the guy just wouldn't say much. I tried the antagonize thing, hoping it would motivate him, and Arthur went, "You ain't worth shit." And the guy just got up immediately. He was like, "Why am I even talking to you?" and ran off, and I couldn't talk to him anymore.
Oh,
so really, if you're going to try and do missions, never use the antagonize option.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about like that guy hanging off a cliff, that's an example of you had the noble choice. Or
that's a full on, Mass Effect, Walking Dead, very clear, really, like two different outcomes.
Story-wise, the same thing.
And I'm not sure if that's a case of where that character will have some impact later on, but I think they have said there'll be other things that do. I think the most important thing is the first Red Dead had only one ending. I won't spoil it. They're saying that because people were wondering, like, so Arthur isn't meant really seeing that sequel. Is he dead or something? And they apparently, based on your moral compass, you can get 4 different endings.
Okay.
And I don't know if that applies just to Arthur or the ending as a whole, but there are tangible consequences later on for your actions, which is cool.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's the gist of it. I do think, like I said, this game's going to be very divisive more and more over time, the way 4 is, because of its slow pace and all these aspects packed on it. But it's the first game in a while where I just keep dying to come back to it for hours and hours on end. And when the day's over, I'm like, but I want to keep going. But also, they haven't even launched the online yet. And GTA Online was a lot of fun, so I'm hoping I'm sure it's going to draw from that template. I'm like, oh yeah, I get to make my own cowboy, form a posse with some people. Who knows what stuff they'll add? Because they even keep a lot of the trivial. You can do poker and blackjack and the like in it, or dominoes and stuff, like old school real games.
Yeah, pay $60 to play dominoes.
I like poker and blackjack. I've barely touched the dominoes. There's even a 5-finger fillet game.
Hey, Alan, did you have another point to make? I thought I heard you trying to say something.
Well, when you were talking about, like, do I save the guy? He says, I'm going to tell people. And then if you kill him, he won't tell anybody. But you chose to save him, and then he still didn't tell anybody.
It seemed that way because Arthur still kind of intimidated. Like I said, Arthur time intimidated him. But like I said, I think we'll vary on story choices. I've had a couple other missions where you can do choices. Like there's one where you go bear hunting with one member of the gang, and it's like, do you want to wait here, or do you want to go look for him? There's another mission like, do you want to wait till night? Do you want to try this now? And I think it'll vary between if there are long-term story effects or short-term, like how the mission plays out or what you get from it. GTA 5 did the same thing with its heists, where you could choose two totally different approaches, and I don't think they would generally change the whole game, but they would change that entire mission.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of it is building on that, and then, like I said, some of it, I think the main thing is building up to different endings.
All right.
But I don't know for sure, and I don't want to spoil too much. But yeah, GTA, Grand Theft Auto 2. No, that's a PTS1 game. Red Dead Redemption 5. No, that doesn't exist yet. Red Dead Redemption 2 I'm having a blast with it, and I think it's a pretty good bet. If you like the first, you'll like this, but there's still a lot different. I say look up some videos. Look at people playing it, how these mechanics work, how the speed of it is, what it emphasizes compared to other games, and then decide if it's your cup of tea. Because, Chris, I know you watch a lot of Let's Plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I can do that.
Yeah, and watch some of the early ones just in case. Because I know I had asked you, and you said you're not big on the Western trappings.
Well, not like the big legendary ones. Like I usually, you know me, I usually check out Westerns just so I can figure out like shot composition, just, as far as like storytelling is concerned.
This has some good storytelling.
That's good. When it comes to like watching Westerns for enjoyment, I kind of like the parody and satire stuff, like, Blazing Saddles.
Oh, yeah.
The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah.
Five Goes West.
Five Goes West.
Yeah, Rango. I usually fall back
so
towards. Good. Yeah, I fall back towards those kinds of stories. But
yeah,
I'll be sure to check this one out because
this isn't there. There's much less of the GTA has that very humorous, satirical edge to it. There's very little of that here.
Cool.
It's much more solemn, but it has strong characters and writing. And I like that they pushed a little more for inclusivity in the supporting cast. Would have been cool. Would have been cool if Arthur himself was like a black or Hispanic character, but I'll take what I can get. So yeah, it's out now, PS4 and Xbox One. I am hearing people say the Xbox One version plays a little better visually, but I'm not having big issues on my standard PS4. So yeah, that'll do it for this game, and I'm going to stay what we have, and we're going to jump into a doozy of a topic.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
On April 19th, 1987, America first met The Simpsons. As the weeks went on, so did the cartoons. As wacky as those kids were, they were no match for Captain Wacky, later renamed Homer.
Now, when I reach out to Alan, and the way it works when we have guests on is that I always tell them, so what are some topics? We tell them, the kind of stuff we follow and that we discuss. And I say, what are some topics related that you would like to discuss? They gave us a couple ideas. If Chris is on or another guest, then I send them a list and say, like, here are the ones I would like. What about you? And in this case, when I sent Chris the list, and Simpsons was one of them, he responded in all caps, Simpsons. And I was like, this is, that was interesting to me too. This is I feel like this is a no-brainer. And that was one of the reasons that I had asked Chris on, both that, Alan has a history in writing, and writing something very important to both me and Chris that we've talked about and critiqued. But it did hit me afterwards, like, man, we are tackling something gargantuan this time, because I'm hard-pressed to think of an American animated series that has had such a seismic impact on both its own industry and TV and pop culture in general. The Simpsons was a game changer.
Seismic is the right word for it, too. Like, it's amazing just how much of an influence this show has had on our society, especially since, like, when we were kids, this show was in its peak, basically.
At a certain point, yeah. I think that's what we're mainly going to focus on, too, is that we were into it in what people generally consider its golden age.
Say I want to talk about The Simpsons. I mean seasons 1 through 9 of The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's generally considered the golden age.
I know it's still going, and it's been going for 20 years.
Yes, and it will never stop.
I still view season 8 as late Simpsons. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Late Simpsons from our point of view.
No.
Alan, you used the number 20? Oh my God. I think I died at that moment because I feel so old.
Oh, how many seasons it has?
Yeah.
I'm going to Google. I think it's more than 20.
Well, we're going to season 30 this year.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Take 20 years beyond.
Yes, Wikipedia says 30 seasons and 643 episodes.
It's nearly as old as I am. Wow.
Yeah. It started in, I believe, 1990.
You've never lived without The Simpsons making episodes every Sunday.
I don't have memories of life before that.
Wow.
Yikes! That's
nuts.
That's so big. I can't.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, I just had to gush about that.
Yeah. So I will. So starting off, like, when do either of you remember first learning about or getting into this show, and like your experience of it in those days? Like, which of you wants to say that first?
Alan, you're the guest. Well, go for it.
Sure. Well, I mean, I was born in 1984, which, so I was in kindergarten, 1991. And so I remember The Simpsons were around. I was first exposed to it in like T-shirts and hats that said like shorts and stuff. It was just sort of the general attitude thing that little kids wore, little nylon hats that said "Don't have a cow, man."
Oh, it was all Bart.
Yeah, 100% Bart. And so, like, I knew it was culturally around. My first memory for The Simpsons, I remember looking through like a TV guide, and the Sideshow Bob's second appearance was in the TV.
Is that Cape Fear?
No, it's Black Widower. That's when he marries Selma.
Yes.
And so, like, I specifically remember, like, looking up, what's going to be on The Simpsons this week? So, what was that, like 1992 or something? I was watching, I guess, on a weekly basis by then. I don't remember the first time I watched it or anything, but it, it must have been first grade or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Chris, what about you?
Oh, so I'm with Alan on this because The Simpsons it's kind of been a part of society since my waking moment. I was born in '84 too, but I wasn't. Obviously, I was just some chump kid that was just like, I want that, I want this hat with the Bart on it, and do the Bart man. It was so. It was just such a normal thing, but when I realized as I got older how big of an impact The Simpsons was it was probably one of the first shows where I actively threw a fit when they did not show it on Sunday.
Ooh.
And I was a kid and I guess they were showing a football game, and I suppose this was like, I'm from Maryland, so the Redskins are a thing, unfortunately.
I think they're doing a little better this season, at least.
Well, yeah, that's neat. I mean, I remember when they were super great, I guess.
Yeah.
But The Simpsons just did not show that Sunday.
That's been a real problem with Fox. I remember Futurama had so many episodes preempted.
Yeah, and and whenever we sat down to watch a show, we would all me, my father, and my I'm sorry, let me back up. My grandparents and my father and myself, we all lived in the same house, so we would watch television together. And Simpsons was my show. It was kind of more heartwarming back then, kind of. But when it didn't show, that was the first time I remember getting a whooping because I was stomping, I was screaming.
I want my Simpsons!
Yeah!
Well, nobody in the house had the power to fix that.
Yeah, they were probably telling him that, and he was like, I don't care!
Yeah, my feeble 4-year-old whatever mind could not fathom that my parents had no authority to give me what I wanted.
You have a remote. You have authority.
Right? It made no sense to me. So as I grew up, I started realizing that, okay, shows have time slots. Certain things happen. Not every show is able to broadcast like it should. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But as I looked back, I was like, that was the very first show I actively threw a fit about. At least one that I can remember. Mm-hmm. And it was the goddamn Simpsons.
Good pick to have a fit over, at least.
I suppose. Yeah, this is... sorry, go on. Let's continue.
Well, do you have anything else? I guess that's your whole introduction.
That's my introduction so far. Yeah.
Okay, mine's a bit different. I think for one, I'm a little not older. I'm a little younger than you guys. I'm an '87 kid. Mm-hmm. So it started in, I think, 1990. I was like 3. Like there was no chance I would even be super aware of it. But once I hit like first grade, second grade, and it was ingrained in pop culture, it was like, it was unavoidable pretty much that you would hear about Simpsons.
It was probably syndicated 5 days a week.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting to that. And I eventually did because, even at an early age, I wasn't at the point where I was like, I want to study and make cartoons, but I was like, yeah, I love cartoons. Animaniacs is on, Tiny Toons, all this other stuff. And I was begging my parents, the Simpsons stuff sounds cool. Can I watch it? But my parents were aware of it, back in the day being a raunchy, envelope-pushing cartoon, not for kids. And they were not taking any chances. They were like, John, you're not watching that, no. And I can't remember what the factor was that eventually swayed them, but I know that around 1996, after it had been running for a while, they relented, and I would sometimes watch the premieres on Sunday, but back then Fox, I had Fox 5, their DC station, and they would show 1 or 2 episodes every weeknight, and that became my main way of being introduced to and watching Simpsons, was just watching all these various reruns. And man, I just remember looking back, I just now associate it with come home, play some N64, or watch some Fox Kids and the Kids WB, and then at I think 6 or so, watch an episode or 2 of Simpsons. And it became a daily tradition for me and my brother. I guess my brother was 3 years younger than me, but I guess my parents were just like, screw it, just let him do it. And that was the case for a while.
There's no fighting it. It's culture. It's happening. Everyone's going to see The Simpsons.
Maybe that was it. Maybe they eventually relented, or maybe they thought John's probably not going to be the type to go around replicating Bart Simpson. And I watched a lot of those reruns. I did start watching more of the premieres, and I think I did eventually lose interest around. I looked probably around season 10 or 11, which I think is when people acknowledge the golden period is ending anyway.
Yeah. That was around when I kind of stepped away from it too.
Yeah. I stuck around. I watched every Sunday till about season 14.
Okay.
It was like I don't know. I gotta do something with my life.
And by the way, I will one quick story, because I mentioned to my dad last night that we're doing this, and I remember one story we always joked about for years that I had to bring up where. Back in my elementary school days, my parents would be like, okay, so every Sunday morning you don't just got to go to church, you got to go to Sunday school. which is the most boring thing in the world, but
Sure,
I did it. And there was one time, they would actually give you homework about like stuff to read and fill in the blanks kind of stuff. And
what the hell? I don't like this.
Yeah, I had to do that too.
Yeah,
wow.
Not about as fun as regular school homework. But there was one day, I remember I discovered a site. I don't know if it's still up. It's called SNPP, like Simpsons something. And it had like transcripts and trivia for every episode. It was like fan curated. And so there's one day I was supposed to be doing my homework, and my dad walked in and was like, "Are you done? What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm doing my CCD homework," because that was the name of the program. And he was like, "Oh, cool. Let me take a look." And I just froze and just was like, "All right." And he sat down, and just the first thing he saw was Homer says to Marge, blah 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 blah. I wasn't grounded or anything, but that was something they ribbed me about for years.
Nice.
Like, John, our hard worker, Homer said to Marge. And yeah, but I also remember getting into some of the side merchandise. It's amazing to think how many video games Simpsons had and how few of them are good.
You got. I know you guys remembered the Simpsons arcade.
Yeah. Never beat it, but that's a fun one.
That was half the only version that I had access to was there was a roller skating rink across the street from my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in a slightly shady neighborhood. So going to the roller skating rink, a little
Risky.
cause for concern. A little cause for concern for a kid my age. So obviously my parents had to go with me.
Right.
But I never went roller skating. Or rather, I rarely went roller skating. Let's put it that way.
You just played Simpsons.
I just played Simpsons while I was either Simpsons or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Chris? Did you ever beat the game?
No, never. I had no money left to beat the game.
I know I've heard the last boss. I know I've heard the last boss was like Mr. Burns in a mech suit is a bitch.
Yeah. I've beaten it, but you need like $20 to beat that game.
That
or
makes sense.
there was for a little while they ported it to Xbox 360 and PS3, but you can't buy it anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
I did the same thing. I would go to the laser tag arena and not play laser tag and just play that game.
Oh snap! Laser tag. I remember that. That takes me back. Jesus.
Is that still a thing?
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Well, I mean,
okay.
In some places, we actually where I live, we actually have a laser tag center not too far from us.
Oh, okay.
But it's. I mean, I guess it's not as. I guess it's not as prevalent as it used to be, which makes sense. But
yeah,
it does take me back.
Yeah. So real quick, I did look up a little history about the show's inception. I think most people are aware of who Matt Groening is at this point. He did the indie comic Life is Hell before this. He went on to create Futurama and most recently Disenchantment. And so apparently when the Tracy Ullman show was happening, there was a producer, James L. Brooks, for that and later Simpsons itself, who decided to reach out to Groening to do some, in-between interstitials, like, why don't you animate something? And it was something I only just found out today was they offered like do a Life in Hell cartoon, and Groening decided not to because that would mean he would have to give away some of the rights to that. So he's like, let's make something new. Mm-hmm. And so he made this suburban family, named Homer and Marge after his parents, named Lisa and Maggie after his little sisters, and Bart was an anagram for Brat, so he kind of already knew where to go with that character. And I've seen a couple of those shorts, and it's just the weirdest thing because the voices and the designs and everything are so different.
Okay. Yeah,
they even poked fun at that. I know in one of the recent Halloween specials, like the ghosts of the old Simpsons show up.
What were you about to say, Alan?
Well, it was, even like the whole thing was really, the old shorts were really cheaply made because they were originally going to make them like Life in Hell, just little black and white line drawings.
Yeah.
And the only reason they were in color was because they Klasky Chupo won the bid to animate, and their bid was we'll do it for the same price as everyone else, but we'll make it color.
Okay.
So a lot of the weird color choices were because of that animation studio.
Like was the yellow skin one of them?
Yellow skin was because there was no separation of their hairline to their skin in like Bart and Lisa. And so they were like, we got to pick something that works for both hair and skin, and they went with yellow.
I'm just
Marge is
realizing
hair-
Marge is blue-haired, Homer is brown-haired, so why are they blonde? But oh well.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. I don't know, man.
Doesn't the I thought every now and then on The Simpsons, I thought that, and I might be misremembering this, but I thought that they state that blue isn't really Marge's actual hair color.
Oh, she colored it?
Yeah.
I mean, when they showed her as a kid or in school, it was still blue, but maybe you're right.
Yeah.
I think it's going gray.
Okay.
Her sisters and her mom are gray. You might be right.
Mm-hmm.
But so after that happened, it did well enough to get picked up for the show, and it was neat to see kind of like, I'm not super big. I like the first season more in the shorts, but you can still tell they're finding their footing. And then by season 2 and 3, it kind of morphed into what we know it as.
Oh yeah.
And one other interesting thing I'll say, and then I'll let you guys say some stuff. I feel like The Simpsons, a very core part of The Simpsons to this day, is it introduced me to the concept of satire. Because when the jokes aren't about the characters themselves, there's always a bunch of like snide little, even offhand remarks or visual gags about shitty aspects of society and lampooning that kind of stuff.
That's true. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of elbow ribbing as far as like, isn't this weird when you really think about it?
Yeah, about all sorts of stuff. It's like, it's not how like South Park lampoons like celebrities. Like it would do that sometime. It would be like, here's stuff about, commerce. Here's stuff about politics. Here's stuff about world relations or just business, just whatever they felt like.
Yeah. It was always a trip, and as a kid, it would always kind of fly over my head.
Yes,
life's not really that The Simpsons, and now that I'm 33, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It is. It's just not as comical. And they're still keeping that going. They've been doing like web shorts about Trump and the voting process.
Yep, I've been seeing those as well.
I remember the main joke is Trump's toupee is like a cat living in it or something. So I've been talking a lot. What are some other things you guys would like to bring up?
Well, let's see. I have a lot of memories besides me throwing a silly temper tantrum as a kid. You got any memories on your end?
Do I have memories? Well, it was really with me, it was kind of the volume of the show that I watched, because once it's syndicated to 5 times a day, I grew up in New Jersey. Good fortune.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cut you off real quick. Did you just say 5 times a day?
See, in New Jersey, we had both the New York affiliates and the Philadelphia.
Oh my
God. And did they show different episodes?
So there was a narrow period where like Philadelphia was showing The Simpsons from 6 to 7.
Okay.
New York was showing it from 7 to 8. Mm-hmm. And then there was also like an 11 o'clock one on one of them too. And I would try to watch all of them.
And were they usually all different episodes?
Usually, yeah.
You guys can't see it, but my jaw is just left wide open. Oh, I mean, if you told me this as a kid, like, John,
where were my parents, right?
No.
So awesome.
No, this sounds amazing. Me and John, we grew up in the same tri-state area, so we only got like 2 Simpsons at best.
Yeah, it wasn't always 2. It was a bonus when it was 2.
Yeah. So when I hear 5, I'm like, clear. He must have meant a week. He must have meant 5 times a week, once every day, like because we can't handle that much amazingness with Simpsons at its peak.
And that wasn't enough for me because I went on.
Wow.
That's awesome.
VHSs, I bought the entire collection on VHS.
Yeah,
which I was keeping up every Sunday, and so it's just like I don't know. It served me well. It was good. Animation writer watching the best written animated show ever all the time. That has served me well, and it's probably why I'm here at all. But man, it would be so embarrassing if The Simpsons turned out to actually suck. You know what I mean?
Well, some of it does nowadays, but thankfully not the stuff you watched.
Yeah.
5 times a day, though, that's a lot to absorb via osmosis. Just like, man, I was like, I can't even fathom just 30 plus years.
It's no wonder he got into writing.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that's great, dude. I'm super jealous.
Yeah, I can't. You're saying you're jealous, but you sound like you pity me.
No, I'm actually all right. So
I think he's just kind of overwhelmed.
It's jealous. It's jealousy. I'm overwhelmed. I'm also really angry because I mean, obviously, Maryland sucks. So.
Yeah, they stopped you from winning that Pokemon contest.
Oh my God! Don't get me started about that.
That's a deep cut.
If any of you listeners are from the DC tri-state area, Maryland, Virginia included, I don't really believe it sucks. It just really blows that, man, that broadcasting opportunity that was like 20, 30 years ago, being able to watch that much Simpsons without recording it. That's awesome.
So you're saying Maryland went from suck to blow?
Well, don't put words in my mouth, John. I'm trying to keep friends in Maryland, okay?
I get it.
So here's a mistake that I made, though, because a few years ago, Matt Groening was honored by the Writers Guild, and so of course I went because of course, and so then there was like a cocktail thing, and I had a chance to talk to him, and I told him that I watched The Simpsons 5 times a day.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Cool. He was just sort of like, ugh.
Wow. Come on.
Hey, Matt Groening's made some mistakes and statements recently. I think we'll get to one.
But there weren't, well, I can't say there weren't a lot of choices, but I mean, The Simpsons was funny. Can you blame someone from binging a show that 20 years later you can actually binge automatically? I mean,
yeah. Oh, I want to say right now, the way I caught up on it, and I recommend it to anybody, there's a site now called Simpsons World.
Oh, yeah, I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, it basically has every episode, maybe not every recent episode, but all the first 20 or so seasons with some little commercial breaks for streaming. Yeah. And if you log in with your cable provider, it's pretty much unlimited.
That's cool.
So
that's really convenient.
Yeah, and it even has bonuses. You can actually listen to it with the commentary from DVDs.
Okay.
You can have a sidebar with the script or noting what the trivia about what they're referencing. Because there's so many references in that I'm still not even all familiar with. They make some deep cuts.
They used to sell those books, the complete guide to our favorite family
Simpsons
books.
Forever and such.
I actually had like the official Simpsons art book where they had turnarounds and character sheets and all that business.
I'm unaware of this.
Yeah, they sold. I'm sure they sold it on Amazon at some point. I used to have it. I don't know where it's at.
I remember one that I loved as a kid, and I was always checking it from the library. Was called Bart Simpson's Guide to Life.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, not so much a narrative, and just a bunch of little diagrams and comics and illustrations about all sorts of different crazy topics.
God, that's a merchandising empire.
Oh, man. It is so funny because we're talking about, back when it started, Bart was the symbol of this. Bart was the main guy. It's like, oh, he's got attitude. He's this little brat. Whoa, he's so edgy. And then over the next couple of years, the writers decided, no, Homer's the face of The Simpsons.
Well, yeah, I think that's who they related to as adult men.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I could, as a kid, I remember that shift. And even though I kind of liked Bart, my family was strict enough. They were conservative in a way where it's like, you can't watch The Simpsons, especially after my temper tantrum.
Oh, so that changed everything.
Yeah, that was I
don't think I had done anything. I think my parents just out of principle, John, don't watch this.
Yeah, I think I think I showed my hand a little bit when I that. But even so, when I was able to sneak away and actually watch The Simpsons religiously, I never really caught on to Bart. I thought it was a cool, funny cartoon character.
Bart, but when Bart's great, but Homer's where it's at.
When it comes to
what?
About him at the time, and I was like, I love this show. The end. That's all I got at that point.
Okay. I'm sorry, you kind of cut out for a bit, but I did get the end point of that.
Cool. All right. I got it on my end, so
great. And I feel like one other thing is that this kind of catapulted all of its voice actors into legend as well. Because even though a lot of them have been in other stuff, like Dan Castellaneta, he's done a bunch of other stuff. My go-tos are always, backup voice of Genie from Aladdin, the Grandpa Hey Arnold, and Earthworm Jim.
He was in
really?
The cartoon, yeah.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff. And Nancy Cartwright has too. What?
I sent him a fan letter as a kid. He sent me an autograph.
Oh, cool. Nice one.
Yeah.
What did it say?
I don't know. It was just saying I like The Simpsons and I think you're good or something. I don't know.
It is funny.
He sent me an autograph.
Yeah, it is funny. Have you seen what he looks like?
I don't think I have.
Man, you would not expect Homer's voice to come out of this guy. He's like a skinny, kind of bald. He looks like James Taylor almost.
Yeah, he's such a boring looking dude.
But all these crazy voices can come out of him. I always think of like voices like Mayor Quimby or that lawyer. Please sign this saying you do not say Itchy and Scratchy. Kind of stuff. Oh man, Itchy and Scratchy. Like even now, I can't believe how brutal those shorts can be.
Oh, definitely. So what are you guys? What are your favorite Itchy and Scratchy shorts, guys? I know this is kind of it's not really off topic, but
it's tough.
Prepared for this, but yeah.
I would have to catch up on them. I can remember individual moments, but not so much which ones they're from.
All right.
I got one. I think it was called "Flay Me to the Moon."
Mm-hmm.
That's where
really
Itchy
familiar.
takes Scratchy's, ties it to a rocket, fires it to the moon, ties his tongue around the moon.
I remember that. No.
Reels the moon in to fall on Earth and murder him.
Wow. I'm just thinking about the Itchy and Scratchy movie episode at the end where they finally in the future see it, and old Homer's just like, which one's the mouse? Itchy. Itchy's a jerk. He is.
Yeah, he really. Yeah, I know they were pulling like the whole. Everybody knows they're pulling Tom and Jerry at this point.
Yes,
but it's like,
but with the violence ramped up to an absurd amount.
Like if I hated Jerry before, I was like, man, I really hate.
Yeah,
Jerry.
I didn't hate Jerry, but I do kind of hate Itchy.
So, Chris, what's your favorite Itchy and Scratchy? You asked the question.
I guess my favorite Itchy and Scratchy episode was, it's the one where, you guys remember the episode where Marge gets to write Itchy and Scratchy?
Oh, she has to change it. Yeah.
Yeah, and she changes it, but it's wholesome.
It's horrible.
And everyone freaks out. It's like
the kids just give up and go outside.
Well, they know, and the Itchy and Scratchy no longer have those simple black eyes. They have those Bambi eyes.
They look like dilated. They look high, and they're just like on rocking chairs.
Like they were
weird voices.
sedated,
Lemonade,
right?
you're my best friend.
Lemonade? Please, I made it just for you. You are my best friend.
That's the right word for it. They look sedated as hell. And as the kid, I'm watching now. When you're inundated with Itchy and Scratchy as like a staple for this show,
And then that happens.
my world broke. I was like, oh my God, what is happening?
Should we talk about Poochie?
We should talk about Poochie. Yeah.
Get you on the flip side, dude. Master's not. I love that the scene from that, the line from that scene that became legend was, when are they going to get to the fireworks factory?
Was that Milhouse?
It was Milhouse. He was so frustrated. And then the end when nobody wants to admit it's terrible, and Mo's like, you should be very proud, Homer. You got a nice house.
Oh, God. I always reference, I have to go now. My planet
needs me. And the cell just lifts up. Note, Poochie died on the way back to its own planet.
Yeah, I think that's how Frank Underwood dies on House of Cards.
They lift a cell of Kevin Spacey and they just Photoshop him. So Frank died on the way back to the planet. Oh, I love that. But also, like times like that when they get into the Itchy and Scratchy like making of, I just love that it's these animations seem both like doing loving tributes and skewering the animation industry.
Yeah,
like the higher ups who just don't know what they're doing.
See, I have no idea how the Simpsons budget is covered, but it always felt like whenever they had the chance to play around with Itchy and Scratchy, like a lot of extra work went into Itchy and Scratchy.
If you watch the Itchy and Scratchy movie episode, they do a scene where, like, here's a World War II cartoon of them killing Hitler, and it looks so much better than like any other Simpsons animation. It's very odd.
Yeah, the movie itself was something special.
Yeah, the movie was. I mean, it's a theatrical budget, but they did a little more. There's a little more like follow through motion and kind of stuff overlapping, especially with like Marge's hair and the like.
So what are our favorite Simpsons episodes? I guess is where we should be leading into at this point.
Alan, do you have any you wanted to bring up?
It's always a hard question because I kind of separate the episodes into categories of like I don't know, rather than a global favorite Simpsons episode, I think what's my favorite Bart episode, what's my favorite Lisa episode.
Yeah.
I guess
any one of them.
Yeah, I have a very soft spot, and nobody ever picks this one, so it's feel free to disagree with me. I love Bart Gets Famous.
Is that the I Didn't Do It one?
I Didn't Do It boy. Yeah,
that's a good episode.
That's usually the reaction, like, yeah, that's fine. I don't know. I feel like that's the perfect Bart episode, and that it starts with this nonsense, absurdist field trip to the box factory, and then it's just kind of Bart, kind of just off. He sneaks out and he's just kind of off, getting by on his wits like an old huckster.
Bart is good at that.
Popular guy on the network, and there's this subplot where Homer thinks Bart is turned into a box.
My son's a box, a box.
Love kind of the balance, and then it's also very self-aware and self-referential on the notion of celebrity and what the Simpsons had become at that point, and what Bart legitimately had become, and sort of playing with that. I just think it's the whole package, and that's probably my favorite.
No, they would do nods to the Simpsons pop culture, like overexposure. I remember there's like a Halloween special that I think it might be the Monkey's Paw one, where they wish to be famous. And you basically have these extras that are like mouthpieces for real life people saying like, well, they were good at first, but they aren't good role models. Like they would skewer themselves and not just real world stuff.
I kind of remember the show skewering itself reminds me of the Frank Grimes episodes.
Yeah, that's
people. Go ahead.
Apparently, that episode's really divisive. I rewatched that one. That's a great one.
It's pretty solid. I remember thinking.
I think it's a classic.
Yeah, it really is. I see when I think of Frank Grimes, like looking back on it, it's like if someone were to step into The Simpsons, like a normal person who has never heard of The Simpsons, they would think, why should anyone care about this dude?
Yes, that was the pitch, because one thing I want to talk about is there are so many episodes that paint Homer in kind of a desperate situation that it could be better, but then you have Frank Grimes come in and is like, no, if you look at these things from a factual point of view, you have it good, but you suck. This isn't right.
Yeah, you live.
And Frank just destroys himself trying to get people to realize that.
He says that he lives in a mansion, which is comparatively more than what he's ever had. And I kind of felt for that dude. Like that's not even that episode is not even one of my favorite episodes, but I remember it fondly. And it was
I think the ending upset a lot of people. Like, man, you went there.
Well, it's the ending reminds you that this is Homer's show. Yeah. Guy kind of comes in and we're sort of looking through Frank's lens.
I remember I was left like, I felt bad for Frank, but they reach a point in the later act where I'm like, you should have just known to leave well enough alone by this point.
Yeah, Debbie, it is what it is, and trying to wake people up from the dream isn't going to work.
No, not with Homer. Also, you did remind me. I did want to say if we have like favorite side characters, I think Mr. Burns is squarely mine.
Oh yeah, mine too.
Like that voice itself, just its speech cadence. I can't do it, but like props to Harry Shearer.
So. I think Conan O'Brien said about Mr. Burns, the reason why he's such a good character is he has a limitless budget, a limitless amount of money, and a limitless capacity for evil.
Yes.
Nothing is kind of out of bounds in terms of the extremes that Burns can go.
You can go nuts with what you do with Mr. Burns, and it all fits. I always remember when he's high and thinks Homer is the Pillsbury Doughboy. I've wanted to tickle you for years. And then Hans Moleman, we can't forget Hans Moleman walks in. I'll give you some lucky charms, Leprechaun. Pulls out a chainsaw, and you just pan outside the room and hear, oh no, my brain. Apparently Hans Moleman is like Homer's age.
What? Yeah, you've seen his driver's license,
right? He lost the genetic lottery.
I'm effing laughing over here, and I'm not even watching the show right now.
Yep, it's that kind of show. I will say, I watched because of the episodes that I rewatched or saw for the first time. I did just rewatch. Cause I remember my main memory of knowing that Chris was a Simpsons fan was when I mentioned Mickey Rooney in our Little Nino episode, and you immediately went, Jiminy Jillikers. So sorry, I rewatched Radioactive Man, the movie episode. Mm-hmm. So goddamn funny. Another dark thing where Moe's flashbacking to being on Little Rascals. No, oh my God, he's killed the original Alfalfa.
You stole my bit.
That was my bit.
Hearing him say that like a billion times. It still rings in my memory. Yeah. I can't believe just how much of it.
I mean, on the upside, the original Alfalfa was just an orphan owned by the studio.
Oh.
It also, oh my God, the Homer the Clown episode and the Krusty Burglar. So many lines have become memes, and I always remember it. Stop, he's already dead.
You cut out mentioning Homie the Clown. That's
the Krusty Burglar episode.
Yeah, I was about to say that's actually on my top 5.
It's a good. It has one of the best endings, like just abrupt, because the whole thing's about owing money to the mafia, and they finally corner Krusty. It's like, you owe me $48. Here's 50, and 2 in change, and good day.
Yeah. And do we change? And do we think?
Or I'm seeing double 4 Krusties.
Oh my God, that's maybe the single greatest joke I think on the whole.
So many just blinking you miss it lines.
My favorite bit is it's such a subtle thing just seeing Homer just sink into clown madness when he first sees the clown billboards, and he's just like, it had no effect on me whatsoever, and he clearly hallucinates.
He sees them at the family as clowns, and Marge's like, what is it, homie?
When he...
Way back long enough. I'm going to clown.
When he says, Marge, and the camera slowly pushes in on him, I lost it as a kid. Like, like I understood, like, it's over. He's already gone. He's too far gone.
He's already dead.
He's already clowned.
That was the scene that cracked me up as a kid. I'm like, oh my God, that's brutal, but it's so funny because there's that guy, Homer, it's an act. Just stop it.
So
and the kids are all screaming and crying.
So
oh my God, with the Gabbo episode, when that dummy takes Krusty's limelight, and Krusty has this dummy on that's just like falling apart, and every time it happens, the kids scream. He throws it into the audience. They just keep screaming and screaming.
It just keeps getting worse.
Yes.
Oh, all right. So double backing to Homie the Clown.
Yeah.
The reason why this is one of my favorites is because this was the one time I convinced my grandmother, after years of her telling me not to watch The Simpsons anymore, and me sneaking away and watching The Simpsons, I was able to formulate words enough to say, let me convince you to give this show a chance.
Did you show her that one?
I showed her that one, and it wasn't. Thankfully, it wasn't about Bart anymore. It was about Homer, so I had a clear type advantage. So it's
super effective.
So we went into Homer doing taking the college course, and everyone's giving their introductions. I want you to say where you're from, and everyone from this place. I'm from Michigan. I'm from Texas. I'm from New Hampshire. And Homer, God bless his heart, says Homer as loud and as fast as possible. And at that moment, me and my grandmother just die laughing. And she's like, after she wipes away the tears, she's like, I get it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was like, yes.
I have 2 other episodes I'll bring up real quickly. I watched I finally watched it the first time because this is just one I've heard over and over. One of the best, Marge versus the monorail.
Mm-hmm. Oh hell yeah!
And yeah, that episode is so fast paced and crazy and great. Like just a lot of some of the quick lines, like when Homer and Bart are on the out of control monorail, and Homer goes, "Are we gonna die?" And Bart calmly goes, "Yeah, but at least we'll take a lot of innocent people with us." or Marge gets on the intercom, "Homer, there's a man here who thinks he can help you." "Batman? No, a scientist." "Batman's a scientist."
It's not Batman.
It's not Batman. Or just Leonard Nimoy for no reason, just saying things, and then at the end, like. Barney even points out, "You didn't even do anything." "Didn't I?"
So
and he warps away. And he came back for the X-Files episode, I believe.
Hold on, what did you say, Alan?
That Leonard Nimoy cameo, that was supposed to be George Takei.
Really?
But George Takei didn't want to make fun of monorail transit because he's like on the board of like the mass transit board.
Oh.
And he didn't want to make fun of public transportation.
Okay.
Wow.
I do love that when Mary Quimby's introducing him, he's doing like Star Wars quotes, and then Nemo's like, "You have no idea who I am, do you?" And lastly, what was the other one I wrote down here? It's an earlier one. It's actually going to get into what I think is one of the things that I feel like we want to a few other topics, so we're starting to run low on time. Stark Raving Dad, the Michael Jackson episode.
There was a Michael Jackson episode. Wow.
And it's so funny.
That one.
It was Michael Jackson they got for it. Apparently, he reached out to them, and it was because he loved Bart. But he didn't play himself. He played this big 7-foot white guy who talked like Michael Jackson.
Ooh, this was that during the allegation period?
I think it was right before.
It was before.
Because the whole town treats it like a god, and they think he's showing up.
What did you say, Alan?
It was at the time when Michael Jackson was the biggest celebrity in the world.
Yeah.
So he was still beloved.
Yeah, stuff hadn't started getting crazy yet. But another funny thing, because I love the emotional through line of that episode where, the Lisa birthday song, which is just the sweetest thing in the world. And then I found out, even though Michael Jackson did do the voice of his character, they had a sound to like sing the song solely because he asked them, like, "I want to have my brothers watch it and see if they know it's not me."
Aww. Well, it fooled me because me and my family. That's Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
it was a good impersonator.
We lost a little bit of street cred that day.
You're not the only one, but. Yeah, I did want to touch on, I know that one of the things we want to talk about was in terms of like as the show's gone on, evolved, gone through different writers and showrunners, and what's changed, like what's for the better, for the worse. And I have some observations, but do either of you have anything you want to bring up in that regard?
You're asking what's changed on The Simpsons?
Like you had made some notes that I had written down, like types of jokes that left.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, I mean, what I was talking to you before was that there's a few different types of jokes that you don't see as much anymore.
Yeah.
Such as, like you mentioned the Marge versus the monorail episode. There's that there was that kind of runner that they used to do a lot on The Simpsons, where Homer's or Marge is driving, and you have the heads floating around saying, like, "I've sold monorails to Brockway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook. Is there a chance the track could bend?"
The most famous one, "Dental plan. Lisa needs braces."
Mm-hmm.
Needs braces. Jokes like that. I don't know. They just sort of don't do those much anymore. Or inappropriate hold music was kind of a runner on The Simpsons for a while. You've reached the lost baby hotline. Please hold, and then it's
right.
Like back, stuff like that. I mean, that's just like little things. I think globally, in what's changed over the years, the biggest thing is the animation. By going digital, everything's always on model
and HD.
now. Yeah, and so the animation has lost a lot of life because it's kind of puppet based, and it's not hand drawn anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't miss the kind of technical errors we would get, but it is a lot more stiff looking nowadays.
And the show creatively, it's just sort of I don't know. It's more of of a celebrity oriented.
They've just been pushing guest roles more and more. Yeah, it's become more of a gimmick.
I did notice as a kid when they brought on Tony Hawk, I was like, that's weird.
Yeah. But you compare it to like when they would get rec models' names and make characters for them. Like a lot of people love the Hank Scorpio episode.
The who episode?
Hank Scorpio, where they move to a new town and it's like a Bond supervillain as Homer's boss.
Oh right, yeah.
And that was Albert Brooks.
Yeah.
He also played the villain in the movie, but they made a different character.
They did. I don't know, something about like Homer doing Dragon Ball Z fights with Tony Hawk. It looks fun in that moment, but how?
Yeah, no, I remember I have two things that I think The Simpsons lost or changed that were turnoffs for me. One, what you talked about, like it kind of did lose a sense of being grounded in reality more and more. Mm-hmm. There would always be individual jokes that threw reality to the wind. I always think of Deep Space Homer, like, should we tell them the apes came back from space very smart and this ape smoking a cigar? No, I don't think we should tell them that. But then I remember, like, I think one of the episodes that really did just make me go, I'm done, was where Homer gets a jockey horse and finds out the jockeys are like little Smurf elves.
Yeah, that sucked.
I remember watching that and being like, what the fuck is this devolved into?
And that was called Saddle Sore Galactica.
Yes.
What? I missed that.
Good. It wasn't good. There was even, I remember a recurring joke where Comic Book Guy kept walking up with a shirt saying "worst episode ever," his most famous quote. It was almost like the writers were knew like this is not our best work.
Yeah, I remember. I think the point when I actively said I'm good as far as The Simpsons was concerned, it was a very small joke, and it was one of those episodes where Krusty was in trouble and he needed the Simpsons to help him, and that's been done like 100 times before by that point.
For Sideshow Bob's first episode was that.
Yeah, and not usually a big deal. I'm usually pretty interested in I'm usually pretty interested in Krusty's life. He's a really funny character.
He's great.
But there was a time when they're watching television, like everyone in the room, including Krusty, and they have a conversation. I forget what the buildup was, but I'll always remember what the punchline is. And the punchline was, Krusty, why did you drop your pants? And Krusty says, I needed a joke to go out on. And he leaves the room. And and I'm like, what just happened? Like my body resisted that so hard that I was so surprised by it because I didn't laugh. I knew I was
feel like the stuff we're talking about, it wasn't even just that it wasn't funny. It was more like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, it was like someone wrote this and let it slide. What happened?
Alan?
It's as if they wrote in their script, joke goes here, and then just
put something there.
Yeah.
It was much more tightly written before. But the other thing that I feel lost, and it's an even bigger loss, Simpsons has always been a comedy, but revisiting the Golden Age, I was surprised how much heart and emotion the show would frequently have.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
That feels like it's totally gone now. Like, I remember some that one that got me as a kid pretty hard was Bart Gets an F. At the end, he tries so goddamn hard and still fails and like breaks down crying in the classroom. Like, that was the first time we really saw that. There are a lot of episodes where we actually do see vulnerabilities to Bart. He's not just a bastard. Yeah. And that's one where he's like, it's him being so full aware of his flaws, trying to change it. And he's saying, I remember that line, this is as good as I could do and I still failed. And that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I do remember that one.
They still get it sometimes.
But not as much.
Yeah, there was an episode 3 years ago, a Halloween episode about Lisa. If you're looking for heart in The Simpsons, I would say check out. It was called Halloween of Horror. It wasn't a Treehouse of Horror episode.
I heard they did one that wasn't a Treehouse episode.
Halloween.
Okay,
check it out.
All right.
And another. You remember when we released the Substitute episode with Dustin Hoffman as the sub?
Was that? Was that the one where
the train station? The note.
Yeah,
like
you are Lisa Simpson.
That's already so beautiful, and then the scene after that even more powerful, where she finally just snaps at Homer. Aww. Like, she's not putting up anymore, and she just says something like, "I'm glad I'm not going to feel sad about calling you this. You are a baboon. You are ignorant." She's like, "You don't mean that." And she just screams and runs up to her room crying. It was just like, wow, they went there.
They did. I will say that going back and like watching like all my favorite Simpsons episodes was pretty delightful.
Yep, we're discovering some. Like I finally saw that. I saw the Stonecutters one too. That's good.
Oh right, Stonecutters was pretty good.
So I'm trying to remember what we were talking about. I know we were talking about more emotional stuff. And was it you who were bringing something up, Alan, or was it someone else?
I think that was Alan.
Oh, so I was saying, if you're interested in the more emotional stuff, there's an episode about 3 years ago called Halloween of Horror.
Right.
Which was about Lisa. Lisa just kind of being afraid of Halloween, you know, and how Homer likes to deck out the house and all this Halloween stuff. Lisa has a bad experience at like a horror night thing and just doesn't want anything to do with Halloween. And it's kind of about, you know, Homer, the dad, sacrificing, you know, something that he loves, which is decorating the house for Halloween over his daughter. And of course, then, and it has kind of a big emotional moment where Lisa has to get over her fears when there's actual danger and people trying to invade the house and everything. It's very good. It came out 3 years ago. So it's like an example of The Simpsons still having it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The show is not incapable now of good episodes.
No,
it's just not constant hit after hit anymore.
And I think people have recognized that because there are old. Well, I don't want to say older or newer, but there are episodes after the heyday that I still found to be pretty.
Yeah,
amazing.
well, I've been hearing a lot of people say that like the average quality for the past couple seasons has gone up. You can kind of see it's like a silver age now.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good.
Good. And I did want to bring up. I think another nice thing about coming up is I feel like there are some recurring themes to each of the Simpsons themselves in terms of like more tragic or emotional things. I wrote it down here. Please give me some patience. That's like Homer. He works a very crushing job, and so many of the schemes he come up with that involve, you know, he's seeking success, more money, more recognition, and that kind of ties into, you know, the classic American dream of usually unobtainable fame and fortune, and often so many of them have him realize the value of the family and what he does have. Another one, Lisa is possibly the smartest of the family. She has wisdom, she has compassion, and she's rational. And there's so many episodes of her trying to guide and help Springfield or other people, and it almost never seems to work. The Malibu Stacy episode, she tries so damn hard, but they put a new hat and she loses.
What'd you say, Alan?
Lisa's the one who I feel like gets abused the most not by the family, but by the show in general.
Yeah. Because
there's just sort of I don't know.
She's almost like Frank Grimes herself. Like, she's too good for this world.
Yeah, it's sort of the mob mentality never agrees with Lisa or sides with Lisa. And
Oh, man, I remember the vegetarian episode pissed me off.
Because
everybody was so shitty to her about wanting to eat meat.
Kind of shitty in that one, too. She was a little annoying, wasn't she?
Yeah, but it was kind of. She eventually kind of got a little more worse. Like, at least it led to the flying pig.
Yeah,
it's still good. It's still good. It's gone. I know.
Oh, come on! You mean you'll never eat ham again? No, bacon? Not even pork chops, Dad. They come from the same animal. Sure, yeah. Lisa. Some wonderful, magical animal.
Yeah, another one thing, like Bart, I think I touched on. You know, when he does have compassion and such. Marge is an interesting one because I feel like she's the one who tries to be. Lisa tries to be a moral compass for people in general. Marge is really trying to, you know, keep what she views as good family values and that kind of stuff, like genuinely caring about where her family's going. And we mentioned the Itchy and Scratchy episode where she's like, I don't know if you should be exposed to this kind of violence. And then when that happens, the women also want to start protesting Michelangelo's David. And Marge is like, but that's work of art, and she's immediately like shunned for it.
So. Yeah. I remember the Simpsons movie as far as like how big, like how much it made me admire Marge.
We touched on this in our emotional moments episode when I brought up Futurama.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I do think a lot of the Simpsons movie is not focusing on the emotion and more on the humor, but that part is like maybe the most effective Homer Marge conflict because it's the time where Marge like really does give up on him.
I remember thinking that in the theater, like Marge has gone through a lot with Homer.
She's been patient,
and not only like a lot, like you tend to you kind of keep it in the back of your head as you're watching The Simpsons. But when that movie happened, I'm like, she really deserves better. Like, she can do better than Homer.
Yeah.
And that's a really sad moment, knowing that she has gone through so much and Homer won't listen to her.
He does not have the brains to... but bless him, he means well most of the time. Because I feel like that's another thing people have. Homer can be just a legit jerk in some of the later seasons.
That moment in the movie, though, it was undercut a little bit when she was like, and she made that video for him, and she was like, and to show you I'm really serious.
I taped over our wedding video.
I taped over our wedding video, and I remember watching it thinking, like, that's not how their wedding happened.
Yeah.
Well, they've retconned, as going on. It's like they met in the 70s, they met in the 80s, they met in the 90s.
I did have a couple of moments in the movie where I was like, is Barney still a drunk?
I can't remember. I know they permanently made him sober at some point, but I'm wondering if they've gone back on that.
I think gone back.
Yeah, Barney is funnier as the drunk.
I think the movie retconned a lot, for better or for worse. Especially in terms of animation. But I do admit that Barney becoming drunk keeps him funny. But I like the growth that he had in not being an alcoholic or recovering from alcoholism because, well, to put it bluntly, as a kid, my parents dealt with that. So seeing that happen, I was like, seeing that happen and seeing it happen in real life as well, that it was one of those moments where I could see character development happening in a show and seeing them as people instead of seeing them as archetypes, as this is Barney Grumble and he is Homer's best friend, as if I'm reading it on the studio Bible.
I will say one of my favorite jokes ever, and I rewatched it right before we did the show, the Deep Space Homer episode, the astronaut one, where Barney temporarily sobers up, and then when he picks it, they give him celebratory non-alcoholic wine. So first he drinks it and goes, "It begins!" His hair magically turns back to normal. He freaks out, grabs a bottle, grabs a jetpack, goes, "Tra-la-la-lampa-doo!" Flies into the air, it runs out of fuel. He crashes on the roof of a pillow factory. Then gets run over by a truck full of marshmallows.
So
that always makes me crack up so hard. Just,
wasn't that non-alcoholic?
Yes. The doctor, like the main guy says, I don't get it. That was not alcoholic wine.
So, Chris, were you saying that you liked Barney as a sober because it showed
growth?
You enjoyed seeing that people can change and you're not stuck with the label that everyone gives you.
Yeah.
Yes. As a kid, it felt like that. It reassured me that cartoons can be more than just stereotypes or archetypes, that they don't have to be set as one character. Right. And over the course of time, they can evolve into something else.
One of my favorites, Zuko from Avatar.
Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit of a... I
different kind of show, but I'm just saying.
Different kind of show. It's heavily built on drama and narrative. But the fact that they tried to do it in The Simpsons... As a kid, I responded positively towards that, even though Barney was no longer funny, and it's one of those double-edged things, I guess, in terms of Barney.
Yeah, I understand.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I feel like we're kind of running low on time, but I think there are two other things I want to touch on. One briefly, it's easy to forget. Just kind of, we talked about the impact this show had because it could kind of create or at least revitalize the idea of adult animated sitcoms. Mm-hmm. I know that Matt Groening has cited Flintstones as one of the biggest inspirations, and I've talked to my dad a little bit about that because they're the same age, and Flintstones was one of his favorite shows back in the day, and that kind of was the closest thing back then because...
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen some of it, and like obviously the jokes aren't as risque, and I doubt they even were in the 60s, but it was the same idea of let's not do Looney Tunes slapstick, let's not do Scooby-Doo, let's do, even though it's a different setting, it's still kind of trials and tribulations of a middle-class working dad.
The Flintstones was a straight Honeymooners parody.
That too, yeah. Honeymooners was that idea too. They kind of copied that template for their lead characters, and I think that might have helped with some of the ideas that Matt Groening initially had for where to go with your base main family.
I can see that. I mean, as a kid, it was super confusing because I remember the Flintstones having a laugh track, And as being
who's watching?
Yeah, as being super young and naive, I'm like, where's the studio audience? Are they drawn?
That's a line in Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie, like, no, Homer, cartoons are very rarely done live. It's a terrible strain on the animator's wrists.
Yeah.
I guess I assumed, I had faith that they were showing these cartoons to people and recording their laughs.
I think they were just stock.
Yeah, I know that
or like Hamburg didn't have enough faith in their audience to not know, like, hey, this is the point where you laugh, dummy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But understanding the Flintstones as a Honeymooners parody, you understand why the laugh track is in there now.
Yes, and that bled over into a lot of their works.
Absolutely, yeah.
That doesn't explain why it's in Scooby-Doo, but...
No. But the other thing, so yeah, when this blew up, I just love thinking back on how many clear copycats you had and how few of them succeeded. Stuff that, like, barely made a season, like Fish Police, Capital Critters.
Fish Police. I remember
nobody remembers.
What is Fish Police?
Yeah.
Oh, look it up. It's insane.
Fish Police. Oh boy.
It was a detective thing. But it was a bunch of fish in trench coats. You had and like making puns about underwater. It looks stupid.
Every time you tell me to look up something during a podcast, I
wind
up. Yeah, absolutely. I go down this awful rabbit hole.
Yeah, but I was gonna say maybe the one exception to a degree was The Critic, which I've seen a little of. Because that had many key Simpsons people on it, and it managed to last 2 or 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm. It was Al Jean and Mike Reese created that. And people love that show. I need to give it a look someday.
It had a wildly different style, too.
Oh, yeah, it was a different show. More movie parody focused, but still clever, and, getting comedians like John, what's his name? Lovitz, yes, to voice Jay. But I remember noticing around turn of the century there was a second boom of it, and most of them that didn't last well. I think people point out that was because King of the Hill happened and it was a big hit, and so that motivated people to give it more of a try. Mm-hmm. And there are some that I do like. I remember WB tried a bunch that failed, and then when Adult Swim first started, they showed reruns. One was
they were showing Baby Blues.
I like Baby Blues. Oblongs was okay. That's where I first heard of Will Ferrell. He was the
really?
dad. He was the limbless dad. Yeah, I didn't watch SNL. But one of my favorites, I've mentioned it to Chris, Mission Hill. Which was, I think, the closest we really got to a genuine spiritual successor because its showrunners were Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, who were constant producers and writers during a lot of the golden age. And man, that show's fantastic. And man, did nobody watch it. And
yeah, I know.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that show? Either of you guys?
Seen it, yeah.
I think Chris said he's not super familiar with it, though.
I'm familiar with it now. Me and my wife had a conversation about it, and if I remember the conversation correctly, she was okay with it. Mm-hmm. And I do remember watching it as a kid, never really laughing out loud. I think it's because the art style never really grabbed me.
It has a weird art style, but I like
colors. The colors kind of bothered me just a little bit.
Yeah, I might pick it for an episode with you someday if you ever return. But it is legit one of my favorite shows of all time.
Okay,
it's only like 10 episodes. So
it was a single season. Such a bummer. I will say we've had some that stuck around. I think the 2 big ones are South Park and Family Guy.
Sure.
Even though their approach to humor and their style is very different, you can still see the roots. But I will say the one today that's been running for a while has an audience, and I feel like it's the clearest, most direct successor. Bob's Burgers is wonderful.
Bob's Burgers is amazing.
So good.
At least, I mean, I can't. All right, so I wasn't big on Bob's Burgers at first, and that's only because as I grew out of college and I started really paying attention to criticisms of the animation industry, I definitely started listening to people who were like, "Oh, there's too many adult Simpsons ripoffs out there," and I was like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are too many yada yadas and what have yous." But then I watched it, and that's totally different because Bob's Burgers is actually really, really smart and really endearing. Yeah.
Super charming, super witty, super endearing, great thought out characters, interactions, and actors. Maybe I need to watch more of it, but let me put it this way. I saw they did an episode spoofing the Brony movement.
So what were you about to say, Alan?
I was saying the reason, in my opinion, why Bob's Burgers works so well is that all the main characters are very clearly defined.
Yes.
And just about 100% of the jokes are character based.
Yes, and they're so distinct from each other, and stuff like The Simpsons as well.
Yeah, it feels like it's a lessons learned kind of category, and not every joke flies, but there's a clear style, there's a clear difference, and once you hear a character talks, you get it. Like you know it instinctive. You know this character instinctively in your heart.
The moment you hear Linda talk, you know her personality.
Serena always sing during Thanksgiving. She always sings the turkey song, and when I first started dating her, I had no effing idea what the hell she was talking about.
I still have to see that.
And then I actually sat and watched it, and it's good. It's good.
It's
stuff.
wonderful. H. John Benjamin is a treasure too.
Yes.
Home Movies, another one that did its own thing, and I love it.
Same people.
One of them.
Really? I didn't know that.
So, yeah, I will say real quick, Home Movies was co-created by two people. Lauren Bouchard went on to do Bob's Burgers, and Brendan Small, who voiced Brendan, went on to do Metalocalypse, which is also great.
Nice. Oh, okay. Slightly off topic. I know you're getting close on time here.
Okay.
Have either of you noticed that there's a Home Movies homage in a Clarence episode on Cartoon Network?
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
No, I did see character design homages in Bob's Burgers. They showed Brendan and Melissa analogs.
So
not Clarence.
If you have an opportunity, John, check that out. It's on. I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Okay.
But the Clarence and his friends, they meet a certain someone on their show, and it's the voice, and it's cool.
Is it Brendan?
I'm not gonna say.
Okay, that's cool. I will give it a look.
Go for it.
But so I feel like there is one other thing that we said we were going to touch on briefly because it's probably the most current Simpsons topic. Do we want to talk Apu?
Let's do it.
All right. It's been a pretty messy thing. So for those who haven't heard, Apu's been long accused of, perpetuating stereotypes for a long time. The whole Indian shopkeeper, convenience store being played by a white guy. And so my sense has been around for a while. I do agree with those, but he is at least a likable and funny character. And so in recent years, it kind of reached a fever pitch. There was a whole documentary about it. And this Matt Groening really disappointed about Beaver's response, where it's basically like, people will be offended about anything. I'm like, no, that's not a response. That's not a real answer. That's shitty.
Matt.
What are you, 60?
I'm sorry.
But actually, it's not surprised me that the showrunners have been similar too. The most vocal in terms of being sympathetic is Hank Azaria, who voices him. He has said, I would gladly step down to give it to an Indian actor, and I want them to have more diversity in the staff and crew, and I would like them to try more things with Apu. But lately, it seems like the response is going to be, well, we're just going to remove him entirely.
I really hope that's not the case.
I hope not too. That's like, it reminds me of that episode where Sideshow Bob gets a nuke, and Lisa's like, Bob, don't you see that would be taking the easy way out? I agree.
So, go ahead.
I feel like my thing with Apu is over the course of the show, he's become a very, very strong character.
They've expanded on him with the wife and kids and such.
The bummer is he started as a joke.
Yes, as a stereotypical joke.
When they talk about where did the Apu voice come from, in the script it just said clerk, and Hank Azaria did an Indian voice, and everybody laughed, and they went, "All right, that's the voice." And it was just a hacky little joke of Indian guys work at 7-Eleven. He was doing this hacky voice, and so the foundation of offensive, but then they've taken that and worked with it and made something, a character that's beautiful and complex and everything. But I understand, because the foundation is
his roots are in racism.
Yeah, kind of. So
at the very least, stereotyping, because he's a likable character, but so yeah, I would have much rather. I do hope they don't write him out, but they also just shouldn't keep him as is. I think they should try taking the character in some different directions. Do some research. Ask actual Indian communities. Try.
You know what's strange is that whenever I'm watching it, like when you're watching a long running sitcom. All right, here's an example. So remember when watching Fresh Prince, and and Aunt Viv got different one episode.
Yeah.
Did they recast her?
Yeah, they totally recasted her.
Oh, okay.
I mean, whatever drama that happened behind the scenes, they just did it. They were just
that happens on multiple shows, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's like there's a lot of hoopla regarding Apu, and it's a shame because Alan, you're right. Apu is a really lovable and relatable character in a lot of ways.
I feel like he's one of the more. So many people in Springfield are assholes, stupid, or both, and he's often one of the more level-headed guys.
Yeah. The sad part about it is that yes, he is a stereotype, and that fucking sucks.
It does.
And when Apu himself is a very prominent character in The Simpsons, and because The Simpsons skyrocketed at a time when people fell in love with it,
and when people weren't paying as much vocal attention to those kind of issues.
Well, there's that, but Apu skyrocketed with it.
Yes.
So when Apu got good storylines, people paid attention to Apu, not realizing that he's one of the only Indian characters on television.
Yeah.
And even I didn't realize that until I actually took a look and was like, holy crap. They're like the closest thing that I can remember to an Indian character on television was Haji from Johnny Quest.
I was going to say, yes.
And the guy who played the dude in Short Circuit. And
who was a white guy.
Oh, yeah, Fisher Stevens. Yeah.
Yeah, and that sucks
Broke
so hard.
Kumail Nanjiani's heart.
I don't want
not his. What's his name? Ben from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I don't.
Sorry?
Yes,
no,
Aziz.
Well, yeah, he plays Tom.
Aziz Ansari. I don't want Apu to go because one of my favorite jokes came from Homie the Clown when Apu shows Homer, here's your next issue of Gigantic Asses.
Yes, because Krusty is so skeevy.
Apu knows Krusty. He knows him so much, and he's just like, I got your porn, dog. Don't worry, I got you covered. And I'm like, if that is not a good man right there, I don't know what is.
Yep.
But he's gone through. Apu's obviously had more earnest episodes.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that we're at a time when some of the outrage that is being yelled right now, there is some of it that is manufactured.
Sure.
So when I hear people saying you just want to get rid of Apu, and I'm like, have you watched the documentary? Because I don't think the guy who made the documentary wants to get rid of Apu. I don't think. I mean, he said on Twitter, I don't want to get rid of Apu.
Yeah. Just change some stuff about him.
And it's kind of easy to do that. Like a lot of Indian actors these days, they're a lot more prevalent than they were decades ago.
Yes.
Just recast a guy. Hank is okay with it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to get rid of the character, I would really appreciate it not using Lisa Simpson as a mouthpiece for it, because that was painful.
Boy.
When Marge was reading her the bedtime story?
It was secondhand embarrassment.
Just the response was, what can you do? It's like, no.
You're
in control of the show.
I'm like, you're Lisa goddamn Simpson, number one. So if you're going to choose someone to really...
I have heard people complain that Lisa's too soapboxy, and people have the same issue with Brian Griffin. Like, the longer those shows go on, the more they become less endearing and more preachy.
Yeah, well, Lisa's always been kind of that way. She's always been about helping people for their best interest.
But people found her more annoying in newer versions of it.
Then choose someone else. I would choose someone else. I would write someone else to say those lines, because when I heard them coming from Lisa, it legit sounded like the writer is saying, nah, we'll deal with it when we want.
I'm just imagining Lisa just going, nah.
Yeah, I'm like, that comes off as pretty lackadaisical, and if you don't want to deal with disingenuous is the right word. If you don't want to deal with it, then I mean, that's such a shame,
because that's holding back progress.
You can honestly do better.
Yes.
That's my take.
And to be fair, it is not clear what the outcome of this is going to be. We don't know for sure if he's being removed or if he's going to stay the same or what. There could be some positives to come from this.
I just want another issue of Gigantic Asses from...
Oh, well, that's the internet.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess, Alan, is there anything you'd want to say about Apu that we haven't?
I'm with you. You know, it's hard for me to make a big stand about it because I'm not even watching The Simpsons.
Me too, but I do care about minorities' opinions.
So, yeah, I wonder, if they did recast the voice, how just be weird if you'd go, that's not Apu, or if they should have a new character or something. I don't know.
My one priority with them should be to flesh out his character more, like maybe be more authentic to what the modern Indian American citizen is like.
I'm kind of I thought I had that opinion too, John. But as I remembered what Apu has been throughout the past decade, he's been pretty fleshed out. I kind of wish they did a little bit more, and I would like to
maybe take him out of the quickie mark for one. That's part of the stereotype.
I guess that is. See, this is where it gets kind of complicated, and
there are a lot of variables there.
There's a lot of variables. Apu owns the Quickie Mart apparently, but so he can be seen as a guy who owns his own business. There's so much going into it, and I agree with Alan. I'm not that attached to the show anymore to really care as far as I do at this point, which is why I was like, I'm kind of tired.
But many people still are.
Yeah,
that's why I just kept going.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a ton of places you can go with it. Just
and I will say,
don't get rid of them.
I will say that even though I haven't watched it for years, when they announce that it's ending, I am gonna prioritize watching that finale because how can you not?
For sure.
So there is a definite ending happening for the Simpsons. Okay.
I'm saying when it happens.
Oh, okay.
There's still, it has to end something. Because I've been worried, it's gone for so long. Like, what if, Dan Castellaneta or someone suddenly dies? Like, they're getting on in years, and if someone they've had, we lost the lunch lady's voice died. Mr. Krabappel died recently.
Mr. Krabappel died?
You didn't know that?
Oh, no. That was years ago, dude.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Marsha Wallace died, and they had to remove Mr. Krabappel. And obviously, the big one years ago was Phil Hartman.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Especially tragic when you read how he died.
His wife.
And Phil Hartman and Lionel Hutz, and of course, it was a one-off character, but the con man in Marge versus the Monorail.
All right,
nobody else sounds like that. It was a loss.
He's maybe the least versatile voice actor, Phil Hartman, because he would just come in and do Phil Hartman.
But he's great.
Yeah.
And I actually remember finding out he was set to voice Zap Brannigan. And both, Billy West emulated his voice, and they named Fry Phillip as a tribute.
Oh, that's cool. See, whenever I hear Phil Hartman's voice, I know it's him. I know he's Lionel Hutz, but when I always hear Gigi from Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah, I still need to watch that.
And I'm like, man, Gigi makes a really good lawyer today. Or maybe not, because he lost the case. Oh, wow.
I am Gigi the Cat. You may remember me from such movies as Kiki's Delivery Service.
I love that movie.
I think there are lists out there of every movie Troy McClure mentions he's in. The one I always remember is, you may remember me from movies such as Christmas Ape and Christmas Ape Goes to Summer Camp. Just stuff I want to watch that. But I guess we should probably start winding things down. We've gone a little past our time limit anyway.
Oh, we have. Yeah,
but any closing thoughts on The Simpsons that you guys want to say?
I love The Simpsons, and I never want it to end. And in spite of that, I don't watch it on a regular basis. But the fact that it's there and has always been there is something that's great comfort to me. And I hope they never stop The Simpsons. I have no fear; they got stories for years.
Like Marge becomes a robot, maybe Mo gets a cell phone. Has Bart ever owned a bear?
Yeah.
I wonder if Chris has any idea what we're talking about.
I don't. It hit me.
They did a clip show episode and ended with a "We Didn't Start the Fire" parody.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, look up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, your final Simpsons thoughts?
I'm still waiting for the sequel to the Simpsons movie because I had such a good time with that. I'm kind of upset that it still hasn't arrived.
Yeah, we didn't get talking too much, but I do recommend the movie. I actually like some of the stuff they did when they had a PG-13 rating. Bart's skateboarding scene, the ultimate punchline to that.
Oh, yeah.
And Agnes Skinner pointing, don't look where I'm pointing.
I like the part.
Beautiful penis.
I like men now.
Maybe Ralph's best line ever. Oh, we didn't even mention Ralph. He's so good.
He is. So my favorite. All right. So my favorite. I'm going to be really quick about this. So my favorite bit from the Simpsons movie is when Homer is trying to get his family back, and he's trying to stop this truck with them in it, and he makeshifts a stop sign, puts it in front of the truck, and the truck slows down. But it's Homer, so the stop sign is spelled incorrectly, and the driver points at the sign and goes, "There's something strange about that stop sign," and I fucking lose it in the theater. I lose it. It is such a simple joke, and that scene in the movie cracked me up. Mm-hmm. I'm done. I'm with you, Alan. I hope this show never ends, but at the same time, I feel like there are times when we really should keep an eye on how far it's come and understand that maybe it will end soon.
Everything ends someday.
I don't want it to.
The saving grace was the Disney acquisition, because now Disney wants to get some. They just paid for it, so they want some use out of this property.
Well, I think Fox TV is still going to stay an independent entity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, their networks will stay. They're the independent Fox company, and everything else is Disney. So stuff like FX and like it's going to be mostly untouched.
Okay.
All right. Fine. Well, then forget it.
I guess that's it. Fine. It show's over. Unsubscribe.
No, it's that it's not going to be affected much by the buyout. It's going to keep going as it is.
Okay.
So my thoughts. Yeah, this show is one of the key aspects of 90s culture and nostalgia to me. I still always think of it as a show that took place and should still take place in the 90s, because that's when it was the most on point, when it had the biggest like stand in the pop culture zeitgeist, when it made its biggest influence. And I can still rewatch so many of these episodes, and I'm happy how well it holds up. I do recommend the movie as well, but I do feel like I feel like the best way to sum up its later seasons is that it's kind of on autopilot. It can still make you laugh from time to time, but the animation's stiffer, and it has like I said, going back, I can't believe how heartfelt the show could be and how much that endeared you to it beyond just the jokes. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'll be the exception here and be like, I am perfectly fine with it ending someday, both because everything has to end eventually, and I feel like if they do it right, the finale could be something really special.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Because who knows how they could choose to end it. Like, they could do it in so many different directions. I actually did see there was a Christmas episode that they had intended as a possible finale. Did you see the one where it's another future set episode where it's Bart and Lisa have kids? And
I heard about that. Yeah.
That was conceived as a possible finale.
Wow, okay.
And it was pretty good. It wasn't great, but I like looking at it, this could have been a good way, to provide some closure on the family, and I wouldn't be against them doing that approach again should they make a definitive final episode for sure.
Cool.
And we didn't talk other stuff like, the Simpsons game is good. I also remember liking the Simpsons Hit and Run, which was basically their GTA.
Mm-hmm.
Fun game.
Yeah.
Other Simpsons game, not so much. But this show is, I feel like there's a reason it is still so beloved and such a legend and such a trailblazer in ways. Like, Fox and others took a chance on it and made something one of the most iconic things in TV history and animation history. And Matt Groening went on to make good stuff. Futurama is great. I'm hearing promising things about Disenchantment. He may not have the best opinions on how to handle Apu and stuff, but I still can't deny his craft as a writer and idea guy. So Simpsons is still, it'll always hold a very special place in my heart. I still intend to go back on Simpsons World and catch up on other episodes that I either haven't seen in a while or haven't seen at all. And we might have some listeners who have never really checked it out, and I would still recommend you go back and look at some of those episodes. Obviously, some of the pop culture stuff is dated, but the heart of the style of the humor and the characters is timeless.
Be culturally educated. Watch The Simpsons.
Yeah. And I guess with that, we're going to bring this episode to a close. I want to thank both of you again for doing this. Both Alan for agreeing to try this, and Chris for taking time aside from. I get it that you have been so busy lately, and so it means a lot that you were willing to step aside and try this. And it was just nice to hear your voice again on this show and your observations.
No problem. It's always a pleasure to be here, John.
Yep. So wrapping up, you can find me on Twitter and Tumblr and YouTube at Behonkiss, BEHONKISS. Alan, where can people find you if they want to follow you on those kind of things?
You can find me on Twitter at Alan the Writer, ALAN the Writer. I'm tweeting out jokes and stuff on the shows I'm working on. A lot of Sonic stuff too. If you're into Sonic the Hedgehog, Twitter, give me a look.
Great. And Chris?
You can also find me on Twitter at CWade the Sequel.
Not the Squeakquel, as we joked about.
Not the Squeakle. No, John, not the Squeakle. Jesus Christ. Yes, you can find me on Twitter, CWade the Sequel. The end. That's all.
It's both your observations about cartoons, touches on Purchase Project, and thoughts on social and cultural issues.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okey-dokey.
I guess that will bring things to a close. I actually don't have planned ahead the guest or topic just yet. You should, as I've said, stay tuned on and follow the Twitter and Facebook pages to get heads up on when we will on what we're planning and what we'll do next.
Do Smash Brothers impressions.
Oh yeah, you were saying that, Alan. Did you follow this at all? Did you the recent?
Yeah, I saw Piranha Plant. How could I miss it?
I'm all in for Piranha Plant.
Okay, all right.
You look the only one.
Such a disgusted laugh. Like, Jesus Christ.
And it's funny because I'm indifferent to Ken and Incineroar.
Oh, really?
I've never played Street Fighter, really. I don't follow the new Pokemon that much, but I will say Incineroar basically being a wrestler I think could be really fun. I think I'll have fun playing against him.
Okay. I got to step out, but okay.
I'm also curious about who the DLC will be. And the new adventure mode looks sweet.
Yeah, that's actually what's got me most excited, honestly.
I'm okay with them not trying to replicate either Melee or Brawl's campaigns. Like, you can try something different, and it looks really interesting, and like a good use of that spirits concept. Because when I saw that, I was like, that's not that interesting gimmick on its own. But then we added to this mode, I'm like, oh, you have something.
Yeah, well, that's why I mentioned that. So, maybe you have an idea for your next topic.
Smash Brothers?
Yeah. The Smash Brothers like reveals and stuff like that. Or maybe you can just do a different video. Either way, that's we could talk about that after the fact.
I will Twitter DM you.
Okay.
But yeah, so thank you, Chris.
No problem.
Thank you, Alan.
Hey, happy to be here.
And what's a good Simpsons quote for closing? I'm trying to think of something.
Always twirling towards freedom.
Why not?
Oh, 2 in change and a good day.
All right.